Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar, Reopening Case Studies and Conversations, where we're going to be looking at some real-life reopening stories from some of the experiential leaders that we're working with here at AnyRoad. So before we start, I'll just do a quick round of introductions from the AnyRoad side. My name is Tasha Campbell, and I am an account manager here at AnyRoad.
Hey everybody, I'm Jared and also an account manager at AnyRoad. I've been here for a couple of years now.
And hi everyone, I'm Nikita Bewley. I'm also an account manager and I've been here for about a year and a half.
Great, thanks so much both. So before we get stuck in, we have just a few housekeeping items. If you have any questions throughout the webinar, please use the chat box to submit these. We'd love to hear from you guys, and then we'll try to get around to answer these at the end of the session. And I'm sure this is not your first time using Zoom, but just as a friendly reminder, there is an audio settings button in the bottom left-hand corner should you need to configure these at any time. If you have any thoughts or feedback, we'd love to hear from you. So please tweet us at AnyRoad and use the hashtag experiential. And finally, we do want to flag that we're going to be recording this session today, and then we'll be sending around the recording along with the slides to everybody who registered tomorrow. So before we dive in, we just wanted to give a quick overview of what AnyRoad is for those of you who don't currently work with us. We are an all-in-one platform for brands who host experiences. And what we do is we provide actionable data on what's working and what's not about experiences that our partners are offering. So these experiences can be anything from classes to activations or tours. And finally, we're currently working with both online and in-person experiences and helping our partners to power both of these, which you'll hear a little bit about today. And here is an example of just some of the amazing brands that we're currently working with, from Michaels to Diageo, Honda, and even Caruso, who we're going to get to speak to today. So during today's conversations, we had the opportunity to speak with three of our amazing partners. The first is Emily Webster from the Hangar Distillery. The second is Vincent Clark from Luxro and Limestone branch. And finally, Courtney Brassfield from Caruso. So before we start these conversations, we wanted to just do a quick poll with the audience to understand what types of experiences you are currently running. So you should see that pop up on your screen right now. If you could just make a selection and just let us know, are you guys doing in-person outdoors, in-person indoors, virtual, maybe a hybrid with some in-person and virtual? Maybe you're not running events yet. Seeing a few answers come in here. This is great. Just give a few more seconds for people to respond. Amazing. Let me just share those results so you guys can see. Super interesting. It looks like the majority of you are running virtual, but there are some that are running in-person indoors and even some hybrid events. Looks like in-person outdoors is actually the least common event. So that is super interesting to know. Thank you so much for taking part in that.
Great. And now I would love to introduce to the screen Emily Webster from Hangar. She is the Distillery Marketing and Sales Manager there. And welcome, Emily. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Absolutely.
I would love to start out just by asking you to speak a little bit more about your role at Hangar and also a little bit more about Hangar itself. You know, what is it and what do you do there?
Sure. So Hangar Vodka is a distillery here in Alameda, California. I am now the distillery marketing and sales manager. I started as the visitor center supervisor when the Hangar opened back in 2016. So as a small team at a very fresh business, I've done all kinds of things here. Primarily my role is to create the experiences and manage what those look like, both behind the scenes for our team and for our guests who come to do them.
Amazing. Thanks so much for that insight. The first kind of actual question I have for you here is, I'm wondering, how have your experiences changed now compared to pre-pandemic? I know that they have evolved. We've talked about it a lot. I would love for you to share that with the audience.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this is, the title of this webinar is reopening, and I I want to kind of highlight that this is not really a reopening, because that would indicate that we've done this before with these restrictions and guidelines. We absolutely have not. So basically what we've done is opened a new business with new operations, full stop, and we've done that now twice. So we reopened in August and stayed open through November with outdoor experiences, and then closed through March because it was cold, and then reopened again just now in March.
Wow, that's great. And I'm wondering, you know, kind of what format have those experiences taken? Are you doing, you know, tours and tastings? Are you doing outdoor, indoor? What's the current state of things?
Yeah, so because of the local guidelines and restrictions in the state of California, we have been allowed to adopt a temporary catering permit, which allows for us to operate outside with social distancing in place. Prior to COVID, we operated a tasting room indoors only with distillery tours indoors only. We now do indoor tours and outdoor tasting flights and indoor tasting flights. And we even did some outdoor tours during the summer. So primarily, we've just moved things outside, which has changed the way that those tasting experiences were run, because in California, we were required to serve meals alongside every alcohol beverage purchase, which was a fun thing to learn how to run a restaurant rather than a distillery tasting room.
Wow, it sounds like you're wearing a lot of hats right now.
Per usual, I look good in hats.
Yes. And I'm wondering, so as your experiences have shifted quite a bit, I'm wondering, how have your goals and KPIs shifted along with those?
Yeah, you know, the goals and KPIs, obviously, we're running a business, so there's still goals for revenue, but I think the world has changed, and, you know, brands and home places like ours have to adapt. We are now kind of operating with the goal of connection, because during this whole time, you know, the craving for connection has become so important. And so what we're doing is we're creating experiences that are even more in person and more intimate, just to connect with the guests. And, you know, we're also participating in all kinds of, you know, charitable functions, because we have to. This is like the time in the world where everyone needs to pitch in and do their part. So I think the main goal that we have now is not revenue, but it's to connect with our guests and the people who drink our spirits, because that's what's important at the end.
That's wonderful. I love to hear about brands really like reaching out to their communities, and it sounds like that's what you're doing right now.
Yeah, we got to prop each other up, you know, like nobody can get through this alone, and we just have to stick together, and all boats rise, as they say.
Yeah, absolutely. And finally, closing question for you. I'm wondering, now that you've kind of done this twice, as you explained earlier, what advice do you have for brands who are in the process of this brand new opening?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I think the most important thing is to take it slow, because you've already, I mean, as evidenced by the poll, everyone's doing virtual events, and that's something that we probably didn't do before. So you've already learned how to do something new, which is basically a production of a television show, which none of us had prior experience doing. So reopening or opening in this new, you know, during COVID world, I think just take it slow and don't try to reinvent the wheel, and also don't try to recreate the same operating experience that you had pre-COVID, because it's just not possible. So be patient with yourself, and you'll get there.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Emily. I really appreciate you coming on today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
And I'll turn it back over to Tasha for the polls.
Thanks, Nikita. So our second poll of today is around what safety measures those of you on the call have in place at the minute. So we have a few options of different measurements that we're seeing our own partners use, and we want to just get some insight from the audience. I know we all know about the mask mandates. We're looking at social distancing, temperature checks. With a platform like AnyRoad, you can also do waivers, make sure that waivers are required before an experience, contactless check-in and payments. Maybe you're doing all of the above. Just give a few more seconds there for people to respond. Looks like there is a good mix between all of these different options. Looks like mask and social distancing are the big winners. Let me just share the results here so everybody can see. So super interesting. Mask, social distancing, and adapted capacity are the front runners here, but we can see that really all of these are being used by different partners. Awesome. Thank you guys so much for sharing that with us.
Fantastic. Thanks, Tasha. And next, we have the pleasure of hearing from Vincent Clark, who is the Visitor Center Manager at both Lux Row Distillery and Limestone Branch Distillery in beautiful Bardstown, Kentucky. Vincent, how are you doing this afternoon?
I'm good, Jared. How are you?
Doing great. Yeah, we have some fantastic weather over here, and the sun is shining. So
Yeah,
it
it's
feels like a
weather.
little bit like Bardstown.
Yeah, every day in Kentucky it's different. We get snow one day, and today it's raining, and tomorrow it will be sunny. So as long as it's good weather for the Derby on Saturday.
Yep, that's all that matters. And yeah, I know that the Derby is coming up this week. It's a busy week over in Kentucky. So we appreciate you spending some time with us today. But to start, would love to learn a little bit more about your role and both Lux Row and Limestone Branch, the experiences that you guys are offering. And yeah, I would love for you to take it away.
So my name is Vincent Clark. I'm the Visitor Center Manager for Luxco, which is Lux Row Distillers and Limestone Branch Distillery. I am running the day-to-day operation at both facilities. And also I am trying to plan tours. Like Emily said, I'm wearing a lot of hats. So I am planning tours. Right now, we're actually a little bit busier than we expected. So I'm doing some tours, hosting some tastings, and kind of just navigating this whole reopening that we have done at both facilities. So we're very lucky in Bardstown to be very busy, and I'm doing everything that encompasses that. Awesome.
Fantastic. Yeah, I know that you're quite the busy person these days.
Yeah, I think anybody would tell you that.
Absolutely. Well, I know that, but both Limestone and Lux Row were at the forefront of reopening, kind of like in the middle of the pandemic last year. So I'm curious if you could, explain to everyone, what experiences you were running during the middle of COVID, and how have those kind of adapted and adjusted as the country starts to reopen up here?
Yeah, I think we made a decision pretty early on that we wanted to be able to access our guests and for our guests to be able to access us however we could. And that started with, just virtual Facebook events. And we quickly realized that people wanted our products still, which led to curbside pickups, which we did through Any Road, and it was hugely successful. Our Blood Oath, which is a big bourbon for us, we actually did. In our single barrel also, we did releases for both curbside, and we had an overwhelming response. There was about 2.5 months where it was just myself and our barrel coordinator, Kelsey, and we were just running bottles every day out to the parking lot. That was my job. I was the curbside sales manager for that period of time. And then once we, the things kept changing, and we eventually decided, the rules are going to keep changing. Let's open some sort of experience while we can. And that's when we did reopen the Visitor Center at both Limestone and Lux Row. And we started with just tastings, which were not production based. It was just a tasting of the product lineup. And then we started to open up tours. And now we are back to doing full production tours, mask required, obviously, reduced capacity, but we are doing full production tours and tastings at both facilities. So we've come a long way, and we've definitely hit some road bumps. That's just, that has happened with COVID, but we're happy with where we're at now.
Awesome. Yeah, I can imagine, spending, the summer in the heat, just running out and delivering those curbside pickups was probably challenging. Something that you probably.
It was challenging, but guests were happy that we were doing something. You couldn't just seeing the property and seeing the facility and knowing that team effort. You guys wanted bourbon and we wanted to get you bourbon the best way that we could. So the safest way that we could.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess, how did your experiential marketing efforts, adapt because of COVID?
Well, we made a pretty good plan at the beginning as far as what steps we were going to take when we did reopen. We did a phased reopening plan and we listed all of our sanitation efforts on there. We listed our capacity goals on there, how the tour had changed with each phase. And so what the marketing team did, and they were very helpful with this, is I kind of relayed the message and then they put that wherever we were advertising. So all of our Facebook ads now had at the end a little clip about all the safety measures that we were taking. We were posting it on social media. On Any Road, the email that you get after you book, we were putting a safety message in there as well as a liability message. I saw on the poll, we have that. We still have that liability message in the email as well. And a lot of that experiential marketing change was at the distillery. New signage now, as you enter the property, the face masks are required. We're using our TVs to promote social distancing. Along the tour path, we're letting you know, hey, you need to make sure you're social distancing, staying 6 feet apart. The Kentucky Bourbon Trail, the KDA, was super helpful with that experiential side as well. So it definitely is much different, but you have to take that more aggressive approach. As a bourbon trail stop, we get people from all over the country and the rules were so different everywhere you went that we had to be sure that you were very clear on what the rules were while you were at Limestone Branch or Lux Row, especially Limestone, where it's a very, very small space. So we had to communicate those messages clearly.
Yeah, absolutely. I can imagine just, operationally, there was so many challenges with, having to communicate all of these updated mandates. And I know the governor is
they were changing
new announces
all the time.
every month. They were just changing. I'm curious, is there anything else like operationally that, maybe was in place last year in the middle of the summer versus now? Is there anything that was, operationally challenging?
Operationally challenging was the capacity issues that
Sure.
Limestone Branch on a good day, it holds 50 people. And we were given a capacity of 33% and 50% towards the middle of the summer, I believe. But then it wasn't the summer so much as the winter wave that hit. And that just really was that was probably the biggest operational challenge. And I know we worked on this together, Jared, was we had tours and tastings booked out and ready to go. And in a drop of the hat, they said, we're not doing indoor consumption, only outdoor. Well, in December in Kentucky, that's not always very easy to do. So we had to recalibrate our whole experience. We had to refund our customers who they expected a paid tasting. That wasn't going to happen anymore. So we ended up giving out like a to-go 50 ml and some chocolates, and it was a free experience. But those are the kind of road bumps that I'm talking, those operational challenges. Maybe we're past it and maybe we're not. And I think that's what you have to plan on, is that there will be more operational challenges. Yep. And that's the kind of the best way to stay ahead of where we've been the last year.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. That makes total sense. And I know you kind of mentioned earlier, but just the size of like Limestone Branch being a little bit smaller and Lux Row, obviously, I think it's just really interesting how to communicate all of those challenges and to be able to switch things on the fly. It's incredible to see that. But as we were evaluating feedback and NPS, we definitely saw that the brand recognition was, your NPS was increasing during this time.
Yeah.
And I know that's a huge goal for both Lux Row and Limestone was, to build more brand recognition. And, I'm just curious, after you kind of take a step back, how did COVID impact your goal? And is there anything that has changed based on these new protocols? And as you start to reopen, is there anything that was changed?
Yes, I think a lot of it has changed. At Lux Row and Limestone, we were always wanting to get people in the facility. If you wanted to come see us, we were going to get you on a tour or tasting. So it was more about hitting those goals as far as number of people and making sure that everybody who came was given an experience. And that's easy to say, but now much harder to do in practice. And we still want to provide those at Limestone, especially, Lux Row, we are lucky to be in the center of bourbon country in Bardstown, next to several other distilleries. At Limestone, it's a 25-minute drive out from the other distilleries. You have to want to go there. So if you want to go there, we want to provide an experience for you. That being said, obviously with the capacity requirements, we've had to change the way that we operate. And one thing we found is when we were forced to limit those tour sizes, and the tour sizes are still very limited, it did a couple of things. It actually invested the consumer in the brand more. Brand visibility is so important to us, and we realize that the more intimate, the smaller, the more premium the experience, the more the guest was actually interacting and investing in our brand. You could see it on, like you said, the Net Promoter Scores. They're, for Lux Row, they're high, in Limestone too. They're higher than they've been since the pandemic started, because we're focusing our attention better. And I think we realized before it was, let's get people in to see it. But it's not about getting people here. It's about getting people invested. Our Net Promoter Score is higher. Our spend per visitor is significantly higher. So while the number of people is less, the amount they're spending, the revenue, that has been going up for us, because they're paying more attention when they're here. It's not just another distillery. It's a different experience at both places.
Yep. Well, that's fantastic insight. And I think, definitely inspirational for other distillers, not even just distillers, but others, other partners of ours that are, kind of not a little nervous about reopening, just given all the changes of their experiences and the different protocols. But it's encouraging to note that you're seeing even more positive responses from your guests.
Oh, totally.
Awesome.
Yes.
Fantastic. And just to wrap things up, I know we asked Emily earlier, but you can never have too much advice when it comes to reopening. So do you have any advice that you could share with other brands that are in the process of reopening?
I'll say two things. One, I am a list person. A, B, C, this is how we're going to tackle it. That's how I went about the reopening process. Pages and pages of lists, and we're going to open this at this point. We're going to do this capacity. It's not up to you always, first of all. I learned that. And second of all, there will be some roadblocks. Just accept it and move. I think we're lucky in that the entire population understands that not everything can go as smoothly as we planned on it anymore. There will be setbacks. That being said, we're 90% of the, where we thought we would be as far as our goals. Things just changed a little bit here, a little tweak there. You have to be flexible, basically. And two, listen to the feedback. That feedback that we get after the experience that, goes into that Net Promoter Score, that tells us everything we need to know. A guest might not tell you when they're comfortable. They'll say, oh, I had a great time. But they'll always tell you when they're uncomfortable. They'll always tell you when they don't think you're doing enough. So you have to be receptive to that. And it wasn't anything big. It was just small things. I would have liked a few less people on this experience if we're going to be in this tasting room versus our big tasting room. I would like a little more hand sanitizer. There was literally a comment about, I would like a hand sanitizer next to the still. Okay, I didn't know that, okay, we'll change it. It's that feedback. And that helped us so much, just recognize what the customer wants and what they're expecting from our experience to get us where we are now. I mean, it's taken a year. Our Net Promoter Score, like I said, higher than it's been at Lux Row especially, but it took a year to get there. It didn't happen overnight. We just now have found at both distilleries that balance between consumer safety and consumer fun.
Yep. Fantastic. Well, Vincent, thank you so much for the insight. It was incredible to hear you speak on both of Lux Row and Limestone Branch. And yeah, we're excited. Hopefully we can get over there soon. I'm excited.
Hopefully soon. In the next couple months you can get out here and see us.
Absolutely.
Literally just about to say I'm going to be taking flight to Kentucky after that. After seeing that picture of your facility and hearing about that.
Oh yeah.
Great to
Please come down and see us. We're being safe and we're ready for you.
Sounds like it. Thank you so much, Vincent.
Thank you all.
Great. So kind of in line with what Jared and Vincent were discussing, our last poll of today is around KPIs and goals and whether these have changed for you. in line with reopening. So we'd love to know, are your goals and KPIs the same as before COVID? Have you changed maybe some of them? Have they completely changed? What does that look like for you guys? Interesting. We don't have one person that said no, they're the same as before. Looks like everybody has had some kind of change. Just give you a few more seconds there to respond. Awesome. Let me share these so you guys can see. Super interesting. So we've got one response saying they're the same, and then the majority saying that they've changed at least some of those KPIs and goals, and even a few people who have said that they've completely changed with their reopening. Thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Thanks so much, Tasha. Great. Now I would love to have Courtney Brassfield join us from Caruso. Hi, Courtney. Welcome. Thanks so much for joining today.
Thanks so much, Nikita. So as Nikita said, my name is Courtney Brassfield, and I'm the Director of Events and Experiences for the Caruso portfolio. I joined the team in November 2020, so kind of just right in the middle of the pandemic. And prior to that, I worked for a few of the most elite luxury fashion brands, as well as one of LA's famous hotels. I won't mention which one it is. But yeah, so for those of you that aren't familiar with Caruso or kind of what we do, we're a privately owned, industry renowned company that blends best in class real estate with 5-star hospitality. And our goal is to create a timeless collection of luxury destinations. And our most notable property would probably be the Grove. I'm sure some of you have probably heard that, or maybe even been to the Grove. So yeah.
Great. Thank you so much for that background, Courtney.
No problem.
I really appreciate it. I'm wondering, so I know that you're kind of new to the role. So I'm wondering, how have you been formulating experiential marketing since the pandemic has started, or since you've joined the company rather?
So I've been really lucky. I joined the team at, a challenging time, but a time that they were able to pivot. And, we've gone from in the past pre-COVID to hosting events for up to 300 to 500 people. Our famous Caruso tree lightings over the holidays, our bunny bungalows, our the Santa house, activations for brands like Nickelodeon and Fendi and several others, to really having to pivot to something that's safer, but still gives the opportunity for several people to enjoy an experience. So what we've done was utilize the top level of our parking structure at the Grove to host drive-in movies. So we could host up to 250 cars there. So we were doing that both on our own with two holiday movies and 2 Halloween movies that were family friendly, as well as hosting clients such as HBO, Showtime, Netflix, Hulu, Amazon. And we found that was something that everyone felt safe doing. They were staying in their cars. We were providing food via servers that were delivering food directly to their cars. And it was just like a fun family experience. And it was something that really worked for us. We had over 40 drive-ins. We actually just started doing more drive-ins as well, but we've really pivoted now that some of the guidelines are relaxing a bit here in California to hosting more in-person events, not in your car. So on-property events such as we have Kids Club weekly across 4 of our properties where kids and their parents can come enjoy entertainment for a couple of hours in our parks. We have opened it up to more activations and pop-ups with brands that are eager to kind of get out there and do something. Obviously, there's safety measures in place with line control and masks required. And for some of our signature events that we're doing, it's pre-registration only in order to be able to adapt to the reduced capacity. And we have been very lucky to have a chief medical officer as well as an infection preventalist on our team. So they are kind of walking through every single step of the process with us and making sure that all of our employees are safe, but as well as the public, that we're offering them an experience that they can come to and feel safe.
That's amazing. I mean, it sounds like you've really done kind of a 360 from what you were doing before, and then you changed it up again in the past couple months. So, wow. And it sounds like it's been really successful for you as well. And I know, just having looked at your numbers, that it is successful.
Yeah, and I think what we've been doing, and this kind of goes back to the others that were speaking on their KPIs and goals and their net promoter score. Well, our goal has always been the same, to just offer an experience to guests who have a memorable experience on property, but can do so safely. We really have listened to the community and utilized our NPS score and the AnyRoad platform to get their feedback and take that into consideration and make changes to better the events moving forward. We have, like you've said, we've done a 360, so now we're opening things up a little more. We just hosted our first paint and sip class ever at the Grove. And that was kind of just like a test for us. Let's put it out there. Let's see if there's interest, if people feel comfortable coming and doing it. And if it's successful, then we'll, obviously look into offering that not only more at the Grove, but at a couple of our other properties. And we saw a lot of success with it. People were just excited that we were doing something, loved the fact that we were opening it up to the public and doing it in a safe way. So health surveys are being answered every time before you come into an event. Masks are required, although I think that will change a bit just given the new guidance. But socially distanced circles on all of our green areas in our parks. So yeah, we're really just like still keeping that huge caution and kind of looking to the community to tell us what they're comfortable with, and working with the health department.
Right. That's really been a theme today, is kind of listening to the community and listening to health officials and kind of doing the best you can with the information you have. Absolutely. Great. Well, those were all the questions that I had for you today. I would like to turn it back over to Tasha. Tasha, have we had any questions come in from the audience?
We have indeed. So we had actually asked attendees if they had any questions when they were registering for today's webinar. So I'd love to get some insight on that from some of our guests. So the first question I have here, which I actually think would be great maybe for Emily, if she doesn't mind taking a stab at this one, is would you be open to speaking with other distilleries or businesses in the area to get an understanding of other reopening plans in your community?
I mean, sure. I'm happy to help and just share experience, because in California, every county is different. I don't claim to be an expert on any county other than my own, and that only vaguely, but yeah, I'm happy to help. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn, or my email address is emily.webster@hangar1.com.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
so just a slight plug for anybody that is an existing partner of AnyRoad. We're offering a community conversation opportunity where partners can get together and discuss exactly that. So what we'll do is we'll make sure that we link that in the email that's going to go out tomorrow with the recording from today for anybody that is interested. So another question that came in, and Vincent would love to hear your thoughts on this, is how and when is the best way to begin to reduce COVID protocols as we reopen? You said you kind of had a shift in that over the last year, so would love to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, this is something we're dealing with right now. So I think the biggest thing obviously is listen to your local health officials, whether that be on the county level, or for us, it's been a lot on the state level. The governor has been very effective at leading the way, but we're listening to our team, one, and we're listening to the science, two. A big thing for us on the experience side, for example, was glassware. And we've used plastic for a year now. And we really wanted to get into that glass. And we, did some research, and then the CDC came out with, chances of infection on on surface is about 1 in 10,000. So that let us know, okay, we're probably safe now to re-implement glassware where we were nervous before. So we've done like a 3-week, each week we add it to a different experience, to where this week is our first week actually going fully back to glassware, which is such a small thing, but you have to choose kind of those small things that make and they shape the experience. Bourbon is so different in a glass compared to plastic, and it completely changes your perception. So, and two, our team started feeling safer. You know, we are all making our appointments. The visitor center team at Lux Row is almost entirely vaccinated. At Limestone, they're getting appointments right now. So they have kind of led the way with me and said, hey, I feel safer to start, you know, increasing our capacity where we can, welcoming more guests where we're able to, where we're still following the protocol. So it's just been very small things, and it may just be a small win for the day, but it turns into something much bigger as time goes on. So don't feel like you have to close, you know, start everything at once and stop all the cleaning that you were doing. Just one little thing at a time makes a huge difference.
Definitely great advice. And like you said before, I think as well, measuring the feedback on those changes, right?
Yes, the feedback, if the guest sees that, then they appreciate the cleanliness. They appreciate, but they'll let you know if they, like I said, don't like something too.
Yeah, exactly. Perfect, Vincent. Thank you so much. And then we also had a question more aimed at the retail industry. So Courtney would love to get your insight on this. So I know you said that Caruso have been hosting these amazing experiences like the drive-in movie theater. Have you guys seen an increase in interest from retail partners in hosting experience post-COVID? And have you been managing that on site, offering them space outside of their stores, or how has that kind of worked?
Yeah, so we actually have. We've been really proactive with our attendants, but at the same time, we've seen that a lot of them are coming to us. So, for example, we have Aloe Fitness hosting a weekly yoga class every Wednesday morning in our park at the Grove. We're looking to do something similar with a couple of brands at Palisades Village. And we also have Barnes and Noble, who used to host a story time in their store. We've now allowed them to use the park area for that at both the Grove and Americana. So they're hosting that once a week at 2 of our properties.
That's amazing. I bet they're happy to have a partner like you to work with. That sounds amazing. I'm also booking a flight to LA now. Sorry. Not LA. Hangar One's down the road for me. I don't need to book a flight, but
you're more than welcome.
Definitely get a chance to visit all of you. All right, guys. Well, that is all the questions that we have for today. So thank you so much, everybody, for joining. And a big thank you to our guests, Emily, Vincent, and Courtney, for joining us. A quick reminder that we will be sending out this recording tomorrow for those of you who may want to watch it again or send it on. And I also want to thank Jared and Nikita for co-hosting with me today. Thanks so much, everybody.
Wonderful. Thank you.